Garden.
Now it is.
Hey everyone, it's Mandy from Garden.
I'm Matt, also from Garden.
And today we are going to show you how we build our own raised bed in container soil. And Sonny's going to help us because he's wandering around as our shop dog here at Garden Warehouse. And so what's going to be really cool is Matt's going to walk through kind of this super unique layering method that he's come up with. It gives your growing plants everything they need as they grow over time. They kind of access the different levels of fertilizer and compost and soil. And in addition, we'll talk about why Matt kind of made this custom mix into the different layers that he did and how they benefit the plants over time. So most important thing, make sure to comment with any questions as we get going, and it can also be on a different topic. Matt and I own and run garden shops, so we're constantly answering gardening questions and are happy to help with anything that might pop up while we're chatting.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and just to remember, there's a million different ways to do this infinite. It's funny. We've been doing this for almost a decade now, and it's neat. One of the cool things about growing is it's an art and a science, and so you'll find every customer we have has been growing for a while. Everyone grows a little bit differently, has their own methodologies, and you have to figure out what works best for you. I'm going to show you what I enjoy doing in a couple of ways, but please, I hopefully will empower you with the understanding of how to do it for yourself, and utilize what resources you might have, what budget you have, what size container. Please ask questions, comments. We're all ears, and that's how we get better at what we do, and how we learn is from you guys. So yeah, let's get going. Let's start. So the goal is, today we're going to build some different container soils. People, there's a lot of, it can be really expensive to take potting soil and start a garden. So there's a lot of ways to utilize raw ingredients. And also, if you're only using container soils, it's almost like using, if you're a really passionate baker, let's say, and you're a professional cake maker or whatever it is, and you're using Betty Crocker mix, that's really limiting. So understanding what those raw ingredients are can really empower you to take it to the next level for yourself. So let's get going. So the basics. Yeah,
I was gonna say, do you think so I after chatting with Matt, I came up with a really rough drawing of what we're gonna do today to build this container. Do you want to walk through it really quick, Matt?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to switch to that camera, and I'll wander it over there?
All right, let's do it. So, do I have the right container? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, here, you want to come over and tell everyone about it?
For sure. Let's do it.
Sorry, I'm going to move. Oh, do you mind moving this wheelbarrow?
Yeah,
Sorry, everybody.
For sure. All right. So, let's see.
Now I can go in there. All right.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, maybe even we go right up.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. That's a good drawing.
Yes, well, thank you.
All right, cool. So this is great. So here's your little plant, and by the way, I personally like to deep seed. Like I do an overseeding initially. That way I like to see this entire area just totally filled with roots.
That's a great point. So right away, imagine little seedlings popping up all over the place, not just the one.
You'll notice a soil that isn't being utilized by roots deteriorates pretty quickly, whereas the roots will be converting it, keeping it alive. And if you overseed and then thin out, those dead roots turn into food for the plants and allow, if you have one seed in a giant container, your roots will often rot because there just isn't enough moisture movement, especially indoors. Outdoors, it can be a little easier. So as you'll see, the very top, I have a layer of rice. Well, yeah, we can start at the very top. So rice hulls I put on the very top of more and more containers, even outside, because it's just this incredible mulch layer. It holds in, and we should probably show you what rice hulls look like.
Oh, yeah.
Here. So this is rice hulls. Yes. So that's rice hulls. And so I love using the rice hulls at the very top. They create a nice mulch layer that holds in moisture, keeps pests out, protects the seeds, and also reflects light and heat. So you'll have moisture moving all the way to the top of the soil. Now this next layer, this is really probably the most dialed layer because this is where your initial roots are going to be sitting. So you could use a quality potting soil or raised bed soil. Normally I would never suggest using a raised bed soil, but for something like this, you can, because the bottom layer is so well aerated that even if that top layer is really heavy, you don't have to worry about it compressing because it'll leak through and provide aeration from below. I would never put something super heavy on the bottom it will compress and just become an environment that the plants can't live in. So for us today, the mix I like using, the basic mix I use for soils is rice hulls, biochar, cocoa, and compost. And if you watched our guinea pig videos, rather than composting those, I just use the guinea pig spent litter. So I put rice hulls, biochar, and cocoa into the, that's what we take care of our guinea pigs with. That's their bedding. And then they poop and pee in it, and voila, we have great soil.
And that's our compost.
So today, we're gonna, you could, if you don't feel like mixing these guys, anytime you see rice hulls, biochar, cocoa, compost, you can replace it with quality potting soil. And in that case, this is a basic recipe where you put some quality soil on the top, put a nice layer of hot fertilizer towards the bottom third, right here, and then more quality soil below. Now, what that'll do is, as this fertilizer breaks down, it's gonna leach in and create like this really nutrient-rich environment down below. The roots will come on down and just be able to pull up, but they'll still pull up all the heavy fertilizer they want later in the season, whereas that top layer still remains pretty gentle. I found this working phenomenally well, and from what I've experienced, you can put a lot more fertilizer and make a much more super soil. Super soil being a soil where it has the fertilizer you need for the grow, and you can create like the amount of fertilizer you can put into the container overall will be much higher with this methodology, and you don't have to wait for it to cook.
Matt, should I put in the bottom layer, quality potting soil?
Definitely.
Okay,
yeah.
but not quality raised bed soil, right? It's too heavy?
I would really avoid it. Yeah, and even, at the bottom, if you are going to use potting soil at the bottom, use one. I might continue to aerate it, so
Okay.
I would probably put quality potting soil that has additional aeration ingredients in it. I personally don't use perlite for a number of reasons. It doesn't break down, and I question how much it actually does to aerate. I would use something like rice hulls, maybe leaf litter, which we made a video about. That way it's kind of light and aerated, which is going to, and as the fertilizer drips in, it will get thicker, because that fertilizer is going to help break down everything inside it. Cool.
Awesome, let's do it.
All right. Switch back.
Yeah.
All right, Mandy, you want to do the mixing or should I?
I can mix. Why don't you tell me as we go? I love this. I have a nice pot for us. All right. Oh, I look far away.
Let me do this.
I like that. Yeah, we can move this out of the way. You guys, look at us, so fancy with all these cameras. We don't even know what to do with ourselves. Is Sunny still in the shot? Sunny is laying a shop
use
dog.
that other one. I'm going to try something right here.
Yeah, what do you want me to?
Add a second camera in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, people, for this not looking super great.
It will look super
It will look
great.
so cool in a sec.
Do you want me to just stay back here so you can see?
Yeah. All right, now you have that other one where we can use this guy to really zoom in on what you're up to.
Nice.
Does that work?
Oh, I love that. Great idea. Okay, so we're gonna work from the bottom up, obviously. And if you recall from what Matt was saying earlier, this bottom layer is gonna be rice hulls, biochar, cocoa, and compost all mixed together. And I'll just explain a little bit about each ingredient and why we love it as we add it in. So just because it's closest to me, I'm gonna start with the cocoa. This is just literally loose cocoa you can buy in a bag. It's usually pH buffered already. It's a byproduct of the coconut industry, so it's actually shredded husks of coconut. So you're, reusing something from another industry, which is good for the planet. Cocoa is awesome. It's an inert ingredient, so what's important to remember about it is it's not going to give any nutrients to the plant. It's literally just adding to the structure of your soil and the water retention of your soil. So a Cocoa can hold up to 8 times its weight in water. So not only is it really soft and light, but it can hold just an enormous amount of water in it, which is great. So that obviously if you're someone who gardens, especially does container gardening, worrying about your plants drying out, especially as summer comes on, is something that we all are thinking about a lot when we're sitting at work and wishing that we were out in our gardens. All right, so I'm gonna do this. Matt, how much cocoa do you want me to add? We don't all start adding the other ingredients. We can always add more. We're gonna kind of eyeball it. This is the art and the science part. Okay, so the other ingredient, as a reminder that was in here, is biochar. Can you see the biochar? Oh, here, I'll bring it over. Biochar is super, super cool. This is a very carbon-rich material. It's similar to the kind of the ash or, byproduct at the bottom of a fire pit. This is what you would get. You can just see how much black carbon is in there. This stuff is incredible. Has tons of teeny tiny little holes in it. 1 gram of biochar, you're looking like this much, has the equivalent surface area, and I've used this fact before, as an entire volleyball court. So that does a couple things. It provides just an insane amount of space for water and moisture retention, for nutrient retention, and for microbial communities to live. And then the biochar kind of works as like a little battery. It stores water and nutrients and microbes, and then it has them as available to your plants over time. So one thing with biochar is because they are like these little batteries or a little sponge that both wants to suck up nutrients and water and microbes, it also wants to give them away, is when you're first adding it to your soil, you want to make sure that you're giving it something to suck up in excess of what your plants need. So that's why we add it with the compost. Some of that compost is going to get sucked up into the biochar, some of the nutrients from that compost, I should say, and will be available to our plants over time. But that's when you hear the phrase, you have to charge your biochar. The compost is how we're going to charge it. Right now it's inert. It's got nothing to give. It's just literally, charcoaled pieces of what was wood. It's a byproduct of the wood industry, and we're going to charge it up with our compost material, and then that's how our plants will then be able to use this as a source to get nutrients and moisture. Okay, so there's your biochar rice hulls. Biochar cocoa. Now I'm going to add rice hulls. Just walk over and get those.
What we're gonna do?
Rice hulls. I think I might need to do more. I think I just got chatting. But you can tell me how much you want to do of each. You want to, do you have a scoop or even just like a plastic pot? While Matt's getting a pot, I'll just tell you guys really quick about rice hulls. For those of you who don't know, these are a byproduct of the rice industry. They're the hull that covers rice. They take it off, and so by using it, you're keeping this out of landfills. Although they certainly can absorb some moisture. They're hydrophobic. They're trying not to absorb moisture. So they work as a really great aeration layer to have down here. It's your soil will have a harder time. Your soil will have a harder time clumping together. It's going to provide some lightness. The water can move through the bottom. You won't get compaction. It does also provide some silica to your soil, which is nice that your plants need. Because it's an organic input, it can also be broken down by microbial communities, and eventually it will turn back into soil one day because it is just organic input.
One of the things I really love
Oh,
about,
yeah, please.
This layering methodology she's doing is you don't have to stress too much about it. If you've ever grown hydro, you'll know you have to have it really, really dialed for it to work properly. And with this, you don't. You can be a lot more.
Yeah.
The other roots, you'll have different zones, right? There might be one where the pH is really high, one where it's too hot for the entire plant to survive. but those little pockets in between ones, the plants will do better and more balanced. We've done this recipe with like a hot super soil branded product that's really well aerated and a heavier one on top. And I just found like it was amazing for beginners because it was really forgiving. The only issue I ever had was when plants did too well and out through the container and ultimately ran out of fertilizer. So whenever you hear someone say that like a super soil is, sorry, I'm trying to censor myself in the screen. I'm still doing this stuff. Whenever you hear someone say that a super soil is really, everything you'll need for a plant to grow, well, it depends, right? Because you couldn't grow a sequoia in a 5-gallon pot. There's a limited amount of fertilizer in any given container, so it's going to run out. So always, as a general rule of thumb, with most super soils, something that falls there, because every soil could be a super soil if you use enough of it. Just about anything of reasonable balance of fertilizer, if you use a big enough container will work. So as a rule of thumb, as I was mentioning, it's sort of if there's, for most of them, the plant body is outgrows the size of the container, so there's more plant matter above than below, less you start having issues. So when you start seeing your plant get huge and relative to the size of the container, that's when you probably should, either add a supplemental fertilizer or transplant if you can.
All right, and so this, as of right now, is completely inert. So just as a reminder, if you were to plant a plant in here, there wouldn't be any nutrients for the plant to grow. Initially, the seed would provide the nutrients the plant needed to maybe get a sprout and some roots, but then it would die because this is literally just substrate to hold the root structures. So what we need to do is add the first step of food for the plant, which we're going to do with compost. Matt, do you want to take a peek at this and let me know if this looks good? This is I did the art version of mixing this. Like Matt said, there's a variety of ways to do it. We kind of just do like a nice, mix of the rice hulls, cocoa, and then probably the least, the ingredient is the least of was the biochar. There's a good amount in here, but you don't need a ton. Matt, does this look good to start adding the compost to? Is that enough?
Definitely, that looks awesome.
Yes. Do you want to start with your compost, and you can say a little bit about what I'm dumping in here?
Yeah, for sure. Let's show.
Yeah.
So this one actually.
Oh, do you want to move that camera since it's?
Let's see. Let's take a peek. So get that
Sorry,
going.
just-
Oh, is it not? Sorry.
Oh, no.
Let's
You're
show you
great.
what we're actually looking at. Sorry. All right. So let's take a peek. So. I might actually use for a situation like this. So this is really like hot. If you smelled
Oh,
it,
they
it
can't
is.
see it, yeah.
Oh yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
All right. So you will see there are worms in here. So this is like a half broken down.
Here, come stand where I am so they can see you, because you're out of.
Oh,
or
yeah.
Maybe you don't care. I don't.
Yeah, cool. I'll come back.
You guys, we are figuring it out on the fly. Look, we got multiple camera angles going, so we're doing it. There you go. Hop, yeah, you hop
Sorry
in.
if I have to switch.
No, this is great.
We'll move
You're
forward next time a little.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, sweet. So you can see that this is rich in worms. Let's find them. Yeah, look at that. So this isn't fully broken down, right? Whereas like this is completely broken down. If you looked under a microscope, you wouldn't see much life in here. There'd be bacteria and fungi, spores and whatnot, but it's been sitting in a bag for a really long time. So compare the two.
Oh yeah, so the one on the left hand is a commercially available worm castings that comes in a bag.
Here, do you want to switch? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I said, do you want me to, which one? Yeah.
Maybe we
okay,
switch straight to the phone. I don't know.
Straight to the phone.
What do you think?
No, let's try.
No one needs to see my. Maybe it's cool this way. I don't know.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, look
All
at
right,
that.
So the one on Matt's left hand that's really fine is a commercially available bag of worm castings. It says worm castings on the outside. Usually has a picture of a worm on it. And what Matt's saying is that stuff is super broken down. The worms have eaten up almost all of the chunks of organic material. They've screened it out, and it's just kind of this very concentrated worm casting. What Matt has in his hands now are the kind of the worm compost, I'll say, that he's been making himself. So all of our scraps, both from the yard as well as from the kitchen, we've been putting into bags that have worm worms in them, and just kind of turning it. So it's a lot hotter because there's still like large pieces of organic material that are in kind of like this worm compost mix.
And it smells awesome.
And it smells awesome, yeah. It
I
really does.
used actually fertilizers. I was doing an experiment where I put like granular fertilizer in to feed them. And the reason why is I'm trying to basically build an ecosystem meant to break down fertilizer. So the reason why I'm putting this in here rather than just the processed worm castings is I'm going to be putting in fertilizer in here that I need to get broken down. So let's do that. So, and I'm experimenting. This is a one that I'm trying, if I were, hey, I can't screw this up sort of style, what I would do is I would add an all-purpose granular fertilizer. Maybe, yeah, we can switch back to the other guy if you want.
Hold on.
Sorry,
Just do
we're organizing.
straight. Oh, no.
Let me see.
Yeah, that's it. You got it. Boom.
Do you want to know what this?
Side cam. This one.
Nope. Next one. I'm sorry.
No.
That one.
Oh, the side by side.
Yeah. So, if we were gonna do, I would say if we're gonna do something like, what was I saying? If you really don't want to mess around, you want to make sure this is gonna work really well. You could do instead like a really well-known granular fertilizer that you, particularly when you've used like something that's like either. I prefer lower down. Typically, if you're using a big container like this, you're looking for something that's fruiting rather than green. So you're going to want more phosphorus and potassium lower down as those bigger plants get their roots down there. So I would use a bloom fertilizer mix, something. There's a number of them made by companies like Gaia Green, Roots Organics. We love Down to Earth too. Any of those. It's all the same. So whatever's cheap. If you can find stuff that's expired, I love using expired stuff. I think it's hilarious that there's expiration dates. I think the manufacturers are just using that as a way to make money, I think, but I don't know. Someone comment if I'm wrong. I think some of the mycorrhizae might deteriorate a little over time, but other than that, still great. So,
So Matt, the bottom layer is Rice Must Biochar's cocoa compost. Are you moving now to the fertilizer layer, or are you saying fertilizer in place of compost?
I'm sorry, so next layer. So I put this layer down, and this will have some fertilizer in it, but the real fertilizer I'm going to add now, and it's a granular fertilizer. And the one I'm experimenting with, because I want to see if this will work well for us. The numbers for it are awesome. It's a combination of bone char and langbeinite. Between the two of them, you have tons of phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. Those tend to be some of the ingredients that are harder to acquire, especially if you're like looking for ingredients around your yard. They can be the thing you have to go source. This stuff, bone char and langbeinite, where you can sell it, it's like a couple bucks a pound or whatever. So I'm going to sprinkle this, and the reason why I put that previous layer down is now there's an ecosystem capable of breaking fertilizer down. Whereas if it was the already metabolized stuff, it wouldn't necessarily be prepared like that. So I'm going to need a little more.
Okay, awesome. And I'm just going to point to our picture here really quick so people can see it. So we are, okay, so we're looking at our, sorry. Sorry, everybody.
Rookies.
We are rookies. Oh my gosh, did I just mess
We have
that up?
experience growing in gardens.
Oh my god, the tripod was stuck in the...
We are clearly inexperienced camera people.
Okay, so on our little kind of chart here, we've done the right, if you're looking from the bottom up, we've done, oh my gosh, you poor people. We've done the Rice Must Biochar cocoa compost, and we used worm castings for compost, and now we're working on the fertilizer layer mix that is next. And Matt, what are you using again for that?
So I used, I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is a combination of bone char and langbeinite. So I'll put a little more in. Ready?
Yes.
Here, come
Do you want me
take
to
a peek.
flip
Yeah,
back to
yeah.
you?
Flip it
Okay.
there.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Oh, I'm doing it.
Yeah, Mandy, nice work. All right, so I didn't mix them full. You see there's this black powder, that's the bone char, and langbeinite mixed together. And the two of them kind of counter each other really well. What is it, bone char? Let me just look at the ratios quick. Sorry, stay put.
He's running to go look. Are you looking at the NPK values?
Yes.
So he's looking up the nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, potassium values of each.
Okay. So bone char 60% phosphorus. I forget what the calcium is. It's very high calcium. And then if you look at legmanite, right? So the other bloom ingredient you always hear about is potassium, right? And legmanite's 22%.
I'm gonna take you guys into the shop so you can see what he's doing. Hold on, Matt. I don't know if they can hear you. No, this is good. He's gone back into the aisleway of the shop.
Calcium, come on. Anyone know the calcium content? I think it's in the 30s, if I remember correctly. So legmanite is going to have your magnesium and your potassium. There's bone char is going to be really heavy in calcium and phosphorus. So that's like calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium. That is the bloom ingredients, right? The other things you have to worry about, you know, to make a complete nutrient balance is you know, the micronutrients, which worm castings are going to have just all your micronutrients covered. And then nitrogen. Worm castings have typically a lot of nitrogen. Again, this is lower in the container, so roots aren't going to be here initially. You could add nitrogen in here. Nitrogen tends to be fairly fleeting. It can become an aerated form. Worm compost versus worms use enzymes to break down nitrogen and whatnot, so they tend to stay in worm castings better than a compost that gets hot. The hot stuff tends to turn it into a gas, and you lose the nitrogen. That being so, there's enough nitrogen in here, but even if we jacked up the nitrogen in this, it would probably be gone. And typically, when the plant's roots are getting deeper, my hunch is the deeper roots aren't looking for nitrogen. You think about if you go outside, leaf matter and all that stuff is breaking down at the surface. It's probably why earlier stage plants, you know, have higher nitrogen demands. It's just adapted to nature. So this is nice. This is a nice hot layer. Now, this layer right here is gonna get super hot. If you ever tried to plant something in it, it would kill it.
And what do you mean by hot? I know people hear that term.
I mean literally hot. Okay, so
okay.
in this case, the temperatures of compost, I mean, you can literally start a fire. This stuff will start heating up, so you would literally cook the plant in it. If you plant directly in it, also as it breaks down, that smell represents a bunch of compounds that could be really toxic to plants. The microbes, it's weird, like your nutrient levels, there will be like these population explosions of microbes, so during that time, the availability of nutrients will fluctuate wildly, where certain nutrients will get totally become totally unavailable to the plant and then become reavailable. So basically, I want to sequester this layer after this and then have the plant sitting above it. So by the time the plants get down here, it'll be available to them. And on top of it, they'll be able to literally dip their roots into this hotter soil, pull the nutrients they need, but have a stable above area that they're existing in. And as it starts breaking down and washing into that layer of inert, it kind of balances itself out and creates a broader root bound area. But you saw I put 4 liters of fertilizer in here. That's a lot. Most people, like if I were to mix that throughout the entire container, you wouldn't be able to use this soil for a very long time. And it might be out of whack. So the next step is well, we already did the compost. So now we're just gonna do a quality bed or rice hull biochar cocoa mix. The other thing you can use, if you have spent soil, which I think is what I'm gonna do here, I'm going to use some spent soil, and I'm going to mix some pretty reliable, like worm casting cocoa, into it. Or what do you think? Mandy, you tell me. What should we do?
So we're on compost or worm casting. Is that where we're at?
Oh, I already did that, and then
Okay.
I mixed it together with the fertilizer a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I could have just layered it. I didn't need to mix it like that, but I did. You know, we could definitely add a little more in. Let me add one more layer. I love doing a little. Let me get some of this really well processed stuff in. And this will be good too. It'll create
Can you
very
point
thin.
to what layer you're working on right now?
I'm right here. I'm on the worm
Perfect,
casting.
that's like
so this
that.
is some. I'm going to add a little bit more worm castings on top. Love this stuff.
Awesome.
Now the idea behind this container at the end is, if you're growing plants, you know, like you could do a plant that has a vegetative and then bloom phase throughout the summer. You know, that could be tomatoes, it could be cannabis, it could be peppers. And this will work awesome all the way through. You can put your seedlings in and let it grow through. The other thing you can do is plant greens early on in the season. You know, if you're doing your spring container garden, you could do beans and nitrogen demanding plants that are never gonna get their roots probably into that lower area very much. And then put a tomato in there once the weather's warm enough. Kind of transition the container over from a greens container to a fruiting container. All right. So, next up, I think I lost Mandy. That's okay.
I was looking to see if you had seeds, Matt.
Oh, cool. Oh, we do. I'll grab some.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah, let me grab that. Well, you want to put some, I'm thinking, this is some old spent soil. And if you had problems with the plant, let's say there was a disease, especially, you know, that you're aware of, or the plant didn't do well and you might not know there was a disease, I wouldn't do this. I would just be really careful because you can spread disease. So previous to this, there was hibiscus in here. So I'm going to avoid planting hibiscus in here in case there's some disease. You know, a lot of diseases are pretty species specific.
So this is the Rice Hulls Biochar Cocoa Layer compost that we're on. And so we could, but Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, we could do just remix exactly what you saw me mix when I first did the bottom, but we're kind of throwing a little curveball in there and saying, or what you could do is use spent soil from a different plant species than you're planting. Do I have that summary
do you
right?
want to just do, I'm sorry, I forgot.
No, no, but this is, no, I like the curveball.
Okay.
No, I think it's cool. And plus, I mean, we've got a little bit of a head start because you planted this hibiscus in Rice Hulls Cocoa and Biochar, so it's like the best. But using spent soil is a great way to save money. We often tell people to do it. It's already got a microbial population in it. It's got
super gentle, right?
Yeah, it's
the plant's
really
already
gentle.
broken it down.
The plants pulled a lot of the hotter nutrients out, which is why it makes it a really good, jump it in, Matt, which is why it makes it a really good top layer, is because it's not nutrient rich, because there's already been another plant living in it that's used those nutrients to grow and produce its fruits or flowers or whatever it might have been. So no, I love this. Let's do it. So the big takeaway is the top layer shouldn't be super nutrient rich because you're gonna have young plants living in it. And you can either do that with a Rice Hulls Cocoa Biochar compost mix or with a spent soil. So we're gonna use the spent soil
And
today.
the things that you're going to lose in a spent soil, right? Well, the things that could be you need to consider are, was there a disease? And has the soil compressed? This is nice and fluffy still. So this plant, this was a hibiscus that had an aphid issue in it, and I pulled out of it. So this soil was never really heavily used in the first place. But I'm actually trying to pull, and it's been sitting for months and months and months. So I know the aphids are no longer on it. I take a bit of
You get a worm in there.
Wow, okay. That's amazing.
That's great.
That's great. That guy's like, help me, this is
Give me
drying
some
out."
water.
There's still some moisture in here. And I'm also gonna mix, so the things you lose, so this has still got great aeration in it. If you can see, it's nice and fluffy, beautiful. And I'm gonna add,
So you're adding in some worm castings, Matt?
yeah. Let's do it. Zoom in a little bit on this. So I'm gonna add a little bit of soil, a little bit of worms.
And what's the point of kind of adding the worm castings into this layer?
A gentle fertilizing layer. Just looking at this is so loose almost, you know, it's
Oh yeah, more worms.
yeah, perfect. So
Whoa, look at the size of that guy.
I don't want to add, if you think about compost, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big guy. That actually doesn't look like a composting worm. It looks like, you know, a
an
type of worm
earthworm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably do more to really turn soil up, get deep in there. So the worm castings, think about, it's a really well broken down fertilizer. It's been processed. And it's funny, like composts and worm casting and whatnot, they're never, you know, you don't hear much about the nutrient content in them. And the thing is, like, it can vary wildly, you know, depending on what the input is. Like, if you're feeding your worms pig manure versus leaf litter, it's going to be drastically different from a nutrient charge.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about having living worms in your potted containers?
For sure, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's examples of worms that are pathogens to plants, but in general, like red wigglers, they eat dead organic matter. They're not going to go after your roots. So if you're seeing an explosion of them, it means your roots are dying. Typically, earthworms and they're going to turn them up. So a healthy soil, a healthy plant, there's a healthy relationship between worms and your plant. So having some worms in there is a great thing. Like we have our passion fruit up front, and actually it's pretty neat because I top dress regularly in that. And so whenever I top dress, worms are just sitting there waiting to break that down, which then allows it to trickle in a really plant available form.
Yep, they provide some aeration too, break up the soil a little bit, keep it from being compacted, right?
Yep. And so, and this isn't, sometimes it feels you'll buy a bag of soil and it seems like such a mystery and there's magic to how these soils are made. At the end of the day, if you think there's, you look outside, plants grow without humans all the time, and they tend to combine a few different groupings of ingredients. There's sort of inert ingredients that create like the bulk, a lot of carbon-based things, and then filler that creates aeration. So you have that bulk layer. Then you have a broken down fertilizer layer like worm castings or compost, and then you have your actual fertilizers they add in. And it's just about, you want a well aerated, soil, and there's a million ways to get there.
This is looking good.
Yeah. All right.
Really good. It's cool because the spent soil we used is actually a spent biochar rice hulls cocoa, which is what we were going to use anyways. It just got plus roots.
And check it out.
Plus worms.
There's perlite in here. I don't know how that showed up. Like I reuse soil over and over.
I was going to say, this
it's one
came
of the
from the
reasons,
container of one of the plants we bought from a store.
Yeah.
Yeah, from like a
Exactly. And one of the reasons I don't like
big
perlite
box
is
store.
it never incorporates itself, and over time it seems to just cluster. And yeah, I like rice hulls as an aeration tool because it breaks down, drives fungal health. Voila. So now I'm going to smooth it out before we plant some seeds. And yeah, I'll be right back. Let me grab
little
this.
leaf in here.
Actually, do you want to water lightly?
Sure.
And add some microfeed.
All right, should I switch? Yeah, let me switch it. So.
You got the water and water there.
What's that?
You got that water.
Yes. Yeah. Good point. All right, hold on, you guys. We're coming right back. I'm just turning the water on. All right. I'm just getting the water set up here going. I absolutely love using these wands. I'm gonna switch this so you can see me as well as the pots. Yay, there we go. All right, cool. So I'm gonna turn this, and then I'm gonna step in, yay! All right, so I'm using one of these wands. These are great. They come in like, they're usually a part of a pump sprayer, but they are awesome because they just continuously spray. So obviously with seeds, the big thing is that you don't want them to dry out. You also don't want them to get waterlogged, but I mean, look at the size pot we are putting these seedlings in. Whoops, my pump broke. So we don't have to worry about the seedlings getting waterlogged so much, just because this pot can hold lots of water before it starts to pool in the top layers. So the watering helps to trigger the seeds to know that it's time to start growing. So you need water for that reason, but you don't want them to dry out because the seedlings are putting out, really fine small roots, really fine small shoots, and if they run out of water, those little roots will dry up so fast. So we like to kind of have like a moist layer for them to lay in to start. Then we're gonna put the seedlings, the seeds down, not the seedlings. Oh, there's another worm. It's like, yay, you finally watered me. We're gonna put the seeds down, then we'll add the rice hull coverings, and then we'll water again to help trap that moisture layer in.
You want to add a little bit of microfeed?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I had a little thing, but this is great. So Go ahead, Matt. Tell them about the microbead. It's a great
I'll
idea.
let you. Yeah, this is something we've been working on for a while. It's we call it microfeed. It started off, you know, I would add microbial inoculants, like broad ones, like great white.
Oh,
and whatnot.
sorry, that did not work.
Yep.
Sorry. I'll wait till you're done. I thought it'd be cool to mix in while you're doing it, but it was just hazardous.
So we do a light layer now.
All right, so the microbead is all of the food that microbes need to grow and multiply, as well as the microbe populations themselves that you want to be inhabiting your soil. Matt, do you want to say a little about why you want microbes in your soil?
Yeah, microbes. So microbes, realistically,
Love the
like
way
even
you
worms.
explain
Worms are kind of like bulldozers, right? It's all about the microbes that are taking ingredients, processing them, turning them into plant available nutrients. The more, it's funny, I feel like this is just being understood. We're finding out that microbes, there's bacteria that go in and out of plant cells that,
They
they
wanna
do
come
a
stand next to
ton
me?
to protect plants. They have these relationships where the plants spit out these things called exudates. You know, they're providing ingredients and nutrients for the plants. The plants give them sugars and whatnot. So it's an amazing symbiotic relationship. So the ingredients where I started adding in were like these soluble ingredients to get my microbes to perform better, ranging from, let's see, seaweed extract, and this is all soluble stuff, so you can spray it. Oh boy.
I just did that, too. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're all good.
I messed that
You know
up.
where that cap thing is? Or-
That's because I lost the cap.
Oh, okay, it happens. So seaweed extract, let's see, humic acid,
Soybean meal.
no
azamite.
soybean meal, soy extract.
Oh, sorry.
So you want to think about like,
Soy
what do
protein
microbes need? They
hydrolysis.
want some sugar, like molasses. They want some, I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. Do you want a water and I'll talk?
I love that.
All right.
But stay in the frame so they can see you.
Yeah, so soy protein hydrolysate, you know, is a great protein source for the microbes. Sugar is molasses. We also use a sucrose blend. Then you want your micronutrients like seaweed. Seaweed's amazing. It has hormones and also a bunch of micronutrients. Then a little bit of milk, which is more protein. Also, there's aspects of it that are beneficial to preventing pathogens. I learned that from some K&F folks. You know, I started messing with powdered milk, which I dust on powdery mildew issues. That knocks it back. We have spirulina in it. What are the other ingredients? I should just list them off.
Azamite, yucca, willow bark.
Yucca and willow, great wedding extracts, also some
Yep.
and aloe.
Yep.
And then I would add this with the microbes, and I add a number of microbes, you know, some broad ones, some that are like pathogen focused, some mycorrhizae, and basically I'm just setting the stage for all the microbes and the ingredients they need to get a move. And this looks ready. So let's put some seeds down.
Do you know where the seeds are?
Yes, I just grabbed them.
Okay, perfect.
Right
Oh,
there.
right here.
So today, for our friend Carlos particularly, he is Portuguese, him and his wife, and they're our close friends, and they work next door. So as a surprise, we are going to be planting Portuguese kale, which is very popular to make kale soup, which we'll learn how to do, hopefully. And apparently, I guess the variety is a little sweeter than most kale varieties.
Very cool.
Which I never thought of kale as being sweet.
Do you want to explain the method you have taught me for seed spread, or do you want to do the seeds?
Let's do it. So
I love the way you do
a
it.
lot of people, you'll be told, do a line or plants, every 3 inches. I overseed, right? So I don't know if you've ever grown. I started realizing this. I was doing microgreens in one container and then doing, my mature plant growing in separate ones. And I was like, why don't I just do my microgreens and then thin out continuously? So I will get just harvest after harvest this way. So I start harvesting about 2 weeks in, and I just thin out and thin out and thin out as the plants get bigger. So my goal is to kind of keep an even dispersion of green material. And then I will thin out as they start overcrowding, and I get to eat and harvest as I go, which is great. And we'll show you how that works as we do it. All right. So I'm going to smooth it in, try to get even, not pushing, just gentle, kind of trying to get an even dispersal. Also trying to get these corners filled up, And this looks good. So now, depending on what you want different levels of depths of covering. I'm gonna go fairly thin because kale's not, you know, a huge seed. It's not tiny like lettuce. It's kind of a little bit thicker of a brassica. So
Are you gonna do rice hulls next or something else?
I'm gonna do a thin layer of the
Of
spent
the spent
soil.
soil, nice.
And again, I love spent soil for seed starting because it's got old roots that, if they're healthy, it's going to have mycorrhizae and all the microbes necessary to get those roots moving in the new plant. All right, and it just works for me.
Yeah, I love that. And it saves money.
Yep. Just never throw away soil. It's crazy talk. Try to fill in the gaps, these corners. Okay.
Rice hull time?
Yep.
Right.
I'm gonna put a thin layer. This is such a great mulch layer. It creates the protective barrier from pests. It holds moisture in, which is great because for me, the number one way to kill a seedling is to forget to water it. You'll be like 5 days of keeping it wet, and then all of a sudden it dries out. And this will just keep it nice and moist. When you do water in on top of rice hulls, or when it rains, it doesn't, you know, break up the soil. And I don't know if you noticed, like, you never see exposed soil that's healthy. So inevitably, yeah, just back it up a little too.
The other thing about rice hulls is they're light enough for the kind of these baby little seedlings to, you know what, I might actually pop this up. They're light enough for the baby little seedlings to poke through, which is really nice. And because they're naturally,
Put your hand below to kind of.
yeah,
diffuse
that's a good idea. And because they're naturally light in color, they also reflect heat away from the young seedlings, so that'll also help prevent them from drying out or getting too hot on the surface layer there as well. So they're gonna work to trap moisture below. And as Matt said, they kind of also work if you have these out on like your back deck or wherever you're putting your containers, when you get a good rain, they're kind of also protecting the little seeds, you know, you saw how small, especially these kale seeds are, they're protecting them a little bit because the rain is hitting the rice seeds first and being diffused instead of just hammering the baby seeds right underneath the soil layer and kind of compacting them.
Good.
We're doing it. Get ready for the best kale of your life.
And this way of doing it, by the way, it's good because I think it's going to really, it'll reduce the amount of, the risk of overwatering where there's such a light layer. So where all the heavy soil is up on the top. Let's go back to
How's that? Is that good?
that. Looks great. Yeah, so you got that heavy top
I'm
layer.
gonna water now that we know
light
there's
layer.
worms in here.
Yeah, give them a little water.
Yeah, they're like, help.
But yeah, anything else? Do we want to wrap up?
Jeez, I think that's it. Yeah, should we switch it back?
Yeah.
We'll do our sign on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and as always, for being very patient as we figure out how to do live streams. And again, I'm Mandy from Garden.
This is Sunny. This is Matt. Sunny's hanging around all the time. You can see it.
If you're ever in the Boston area, come visit our store. You'll get to see this space as well as all the stuff we have. And as always, ping us anytime with grow questions. We're just happy to have you grow life where you live.
Yeah, if you guys have suggestions for other live streams, we're going to be doing this more and more. So just stay tuned and let us know what works for you. And we can't wait to hear from you. Thank you.